Coming up this morning in the Dattitude podcast, the Kellen Moore era already has begun, but where will the first game of his NFL coaching career be? And where will this 2025 season take the Saints and all the fans who said they are ready for the rebuilding process to begin? We'll be monitoring the rumor mill and give you our best guesses throughout the morning and early afternoon. We already know, we think we know, at least there's one report of where the Saints will be in week one. Also, local podcast host David Grubb is here to share his thoughts on the Saints news from the past week and his feelings on the Saints quarterback situation. Also, we'll talk about the Pelicans winning the 7th pick in the NBA lottery. Hey, they can't all be rigged in your favor, you know? Did I say that out loud? What I meant to say was the Mavericks are picking first. I mean, if you're going to write a script, wait, that's exactly how you would write the script. Gabe's also going to talk about the NBA draft. And my last word is on something even more absurd than the NBA lottery. The baseball waits 7.5 months after Pete Rose dies to reinstate him to the game because, well, of course they did. Let's cue the music before I get myself into trouble.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Hey, you ready to talk about some NFL schedules? It don't get no more exciting than NFL schedules. Okay, wait. Maybe it does. I know what's more exciting. This is Dattitude, episode number 374, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday, May the 14th, 2024. I am your host, Jim Derry, of course. You're excited about that? No, well, whatever. Nearly 35 years in the New Orleans sports media scene. That's how my wife and kids act when I come home. Just like you just reacted. Yeah, exactly. I thank you for being a part of the ever-growing Dattitude family. Anyway, what is on the show today? Well, if you're watching us, you can see that I got it there typed up for you in a little box. The NFL schedule is not only going to be released. I mean, I don't even know why they do it like this. It gets leaked. It is leaked out. In fact, we already know, according to Nick Underhill, if he is correct, the Saints will be opening the season at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Also, Zach Ewing is telling me that week 5 is against the Giants. So there you go. So that's what we know so far. Gabe is monitoring our little rumor mill, and he will be helping me out as we go along. As well, we'll be talking about the Saints schedule. Saints start where? Well, I typed that in before I knew where they were going to start. I just told you where they're going to start, assuming that Nick Underhill is correct, assuming that the rumor mill is correct. Best, worst options. What would you like to see Saints schedule-wise? Do you want to see the easiest part of the schedule first, or do you want to see the tough part later? You know, the Saints got to go to Buffalo this year. They also have to go. Where else do they have to go? They have to go to like New England or something. I don't know. New England's here. I don't know. We'll look at it in a minute. Whatever. All those things. So best and worst options. What are the best and worst options? Also, we're going to talk about the NBA draft, the lottery a little bit. Again, David Grubb coming on in just a few minutes. 11:15, 11:20, somewhere around there. Yeah. Pels pick 7th. I mean, I don't look. They've already picked first twice when they didn't deserve to pick first. But really, the Mavericks, like I said in the opening, if you were going to write a script, I'm not saying a script was written. If you were going to write a script, that's how you would write the script, right? So did they write a script? I don't know. We'll see. Also, the last word, Pete Rose, still screwed. Yeah, he's back in baseball. Well, yippee-ki-yay. You're back in baseball. He's been dead for 7.5 months. They could look, if you're going to do it like this, talk about writing scripts. You couldn't wait until, I don't know, later? Like, I don't know, 2-3 years from now? Don't make it so obvious. Anyway, I don't want to give my last word away, but obviously that's what my last word is today. A reminder that we will have a show tomorrow morning. Instead of Friday, we'll be doing a show tomorrow. Rod Walker will be here. I didn't realize this, but I knew Rod Walker was here last year for the schedule release. Apparently, I don't know who I had on for the 2023 schedule release, but the 2022 schedule release, I had Rod Walker on. So maybe we'll just make it a tradition. Schedule release, Rod Walker. There you go. So he's going to be on tomorrow, and there is no Friday show. Just going to take a long weekend. I mean, if we're going to have a Thursday show, we're just not going to do a Friday show. By the way, the fly is still here. Pissing me off. I don't know where it's going. I had to put something on top of my coffee. Every time I leave my coffee unattended, this fly must love some coffee. This coffee had to be like a chain smoking old hag in its previous life, because it wants my coffee. I ain't getting it. Put my phone on top of it. What else we got to talk about before we get to the real stuff? As we keep losing viewers, who is this dude? What's he talking about? Yeah, I'm not going to even talk about the heat that's coming. 100-degree feel like temperatures coming up. Yeah. Let's see what you feel. Because you can be a part of the show, as always, by typing in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And if you haven't already done so, I mean, I'm sure what I've said the first 7 minutes of this show, if you're new, you're like, yeah, I got to subscribe to this dude. Man, that's some exciting stuff. That's how you get started. But if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page. Click the like button. Smash it, as my daughter says. Smash that subscribe button. You get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. via email. jderry@theadvocate.com. Oh, I know what else I didn't tell you. Got to do yesterday as I go to the comment stream. Got to go to the dentist yesterday. Man, they got all kinds of new tools at the dentist. That was fun. But I do have 0.0 cavities, baby. 0.0. That I can say 0.0. Good morning, Kyle Sherman. Oh, don't get me started on Kyle Deckers. Come on, man. Who likes Kyle? Who gives a shit? The Saints, yippee-ki-yay. They signed another rookie quarterback who's got, like, issues. Sean Payton would have never signed this dude, by the way. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying you got to, I've already said break away from the Sean Payton mold. Yeah, let's go sign some dude that got in trouble gambling or whatever the hell problem he has. First of all, who cares? The only thing that this is even significant is they sign this dude. Does that mean they're not signing another veteran? I mean, how many quarterbacks do you want in the room? I mean, you're going to have just like, I don't know, go sign like 8 more of them. You're going to have like quarterback bingo, baby. You let them all start. I tell you what is there? 16? No, there's only 12. There's only 12 quarters in preseason now. Have 12 quarterbacks. They can all start 1 quarter preseason. That sounds like fun. You should do that. Just stupid. UBN's here. Anything newsworthy today? Yeah. They ain't signed the quarterback. Kyle also says the NBA lottery was. I'm not saying it, Kyle. I'm just saying if you were writing a script, how would you write it? Apathy says, good morning. Just can't get past Gail calling him Ellen Moore. Did she really? Did she call him Ellen Moore? I don't know. Is his wife's name Ellen? I don't know. Teresa Williams, good morning. Welcome to the Dattitude family. Gary, good morning. Mally Mal. NBA. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying the NBA lottery's rigged. Y'all are saying it. Who dat daddy? Good morning. Let's see what else we got. Chad Gage. Not basing this season on wins, but how our young players, meaning the Saints, are going to perform as a foundation, building something. Yeah. We're building, all right, baby. Keep on building, baby. Keep on building. What else we got? Who that daddy says the whole schedule is fairly easy as far as he's concerned. Yeah. It's so easy that they're going to open up against the Arizona Cardinals at home and be an underdog. Kyle says it's a hardy flight. 3 days? Yeah. You know, I had to look this up, by the way. Flyers live apparently 5 days. MF must have been born in here somewhere. That ain't good. Aren't they born from maggots? Huh? Oh, good Lord. I mean, it's only one that I've seen, so who knows? UBN says I should name the fly Rattler. No, man, come on. I don't dislike the rat. Why y'all keep doing stuff like that? Hakeem's here. Good morning. Paul Laporte. Does Hunter Deckers have a shot to make a team? He has as much shot to make the team as I have on being right about Derek Carr. I got rid of the crow thing, so I can't play that this morning. Lewis Jacobson. Who dat? He's fired up. You're fired up. You're good for you. You should be fired up. Hakeem says the only thing he cares about if he can help this team, not his past. Everybody has a past, but I believe he is just a camp on. Of course, he's a camp on. Whose spot is he gonna take? Jake Haener? Okay, well, Jake Haener's not gonna make the team. Again, they're probably gonna sign a veteran. Hakeem also says he hopes at this point they can trade for quarterback help Kenny Pickett or Jameis. I mean, I would love that. I just don't think they're going to trade for someone. I think they're going to go get someone off the scrap heap. Let's change. Let's go to we might as well move on. By the way, I'll show you the odds haven't changed. I went and looked this morning. Same odds. I mean, they're not good. They haven't changed much. Again, even after the Carr news, didn't change much. Over under. Most places it's 5.5. If you look at these numbers, that they tell you it's 5.5. These are DraftKings numbers, by the way. You can get better numbers other places. Rod Walker sent me a text last night, showed me Super Bowl odds at DraftKings. Why are we talking about it? Because, I mean, you compare them to what they've been in the past, right? It's just a gauge, okay? Nobody's saying the Saints are going to go to the Super Bowl, okay? I'm certainly not. You've heard me the last couple of days and know what I think, but it's just a gauge to show you how far away this team is from being realistic, okay? Now, I will say this. It's hard to compare these Saints with the Cincinnati Bengals of a few years ago. But the Cincinnati Bengals of a few years ago with Joe Burrow, when they went to the Super Bowl, at one point in the season, they were plus 15,000. So the Saints are twice that. Just goes to show you the odds. Anyway, what we're really going to be talking about today is this, for the most part. Schedule, home and away. Those are the opponents. Of course, we don't know. We will know officially. Again, we may get some leaks. Gabe is monitoring the leak situation as we go throughout the day. As of right now, the leaks. And there's a great site. I want to give the guy some credit because I've been using him the past few years, and he's NFL Nerd. I think that's what it is on Twitter. I think just type in NFL Nerd, he'll come up. And he's got this great Google Doc spreadsheet, and it's where all the leaks, and he gets them from. He is following all the beat writers, and so when Nick Underhill said that the Saints were going to, so that's why this isn't official, but this is coming from the beat writers, so it's probably right. I mean, some teams got a lot of them. Like the Giants have 10 games already filled in. The Saints were the last one to get any games filled in. They only have 2. And again, according to Nick, the Saints will open at home against Arizona. And there is, I don't know who put this in there, but Zach texted this to me, and it's also on here, ProGrid, that the Saints will play week 5 at home against the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants. I mean, look. Again, we're going to talk about today. Does it matter? Is there a certain schedule formula that you want to see? Who would you like to see? I mean, I'm not a fan when you had, first of all, this stupid 17-game schedule. Just go to 18 already and get it over with. So you can play 9 at home and 9 on the road. I mean, it's stupid that you got to play 8 games at home and you play 9 on the road. And what's even worse is, remember the Saints got hosed in 22? They got hosed. It was one of the years where, yeah, so it's an odd number. So I think it was 22. when they were supposed to get 9 home games and 8 road games, and they sent them to Europe for one of their home games. So not only did now you get 8 home games and 8 road games, and you get screwed because there are, most of the rest of the NFC was getting 9 home games, but you also have to go to Europe, which to me basically counts like 2 road games. So now you're really getting screwed. Multiple screw jobs. They didn't do them last year. But anyway, I just hate starting at home because now you're already starting on rough footing with this team. You're going to start at home again against an Arizona Cardinals team. I had Gabe look this up before we started. You want to know the last time the Cardinals were road favorites to start an NFL season? I mean, it's actually not as long ago as I thought. I forgot they went to the Super Bowl back in, I don't know, they went to the Super Bowl in 2006. I guess it was 2005. No. 2007 or 8, whatever it was. Gabe's probably typing it in now. And the last time they were road favorites to start a season was 2010. They're going to be road favorites this year. 2009 was when they went to the Super Bowl. So a year before the Saints went to the Super Bowl, the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl. The Saints are going to start the season as an underdog to the Arizona Cardinals. Mally Mal says Deckers will replace Haener. Yeah, but you're missing the point. Who cares? Haener wasn't going to make this team anyway. Deckers isn't going to. Why would you go out and sign a guy like that? I have no idea. That doesn't make any sense to me. For what? Are you going to have him compete against the Rat? Again, you're doing this unless you're not going to sign a veteran, which makes even less sense. You have got to bring in a veteran to help this quarterback room. You cannot go into the season. Again, we told you this on Monday. The last time, if you weren't here, I'll say it again. The last time that an NFL team went into a regular season with a group of quarterbacks that had 0 combined NFL wins. When was it? We just talked about 2010. The Carolina Panthers. They went 1-15. I'm sorry, it wasn't 2010. It's 2001. 2001. So 24 years. It's been 24 years since an NFL team went into a season with a quarterback room that combined for 0 victories. And they only had 1 when the season was done. And they won their first game. It was the first game. They beat Minnesota in game 1 and then lost 15 in a row. Is that what the Saints have in store? I mean, I don't think it's going to be that bad, but who knows? Darryl Romero, good morning. Glad you're here. Who Dat Daddy says he lives in Dallas. That was payback for the NBA thing. It was payback for the Luka trade and denying that. It's not supposed to be payback for anything. It's supposed to be a lottery. You're supposed to pull a ball from a machine, and whatever ball comes out of the machine, that's who picks first. We all know that's not true. I don't want to get my friend David Grubb in trouble. Who's coming on in a minute. I don't think he's going to say that anyway. I think I'm not going to put words in his mouth. He's coming on in about 2 minutes. But I'm guessing he's going to say, luck of the draw. That's my guess. That's my predict. I predict everything. I predict whether the fly is going to land on my cup here in the next minute. I give it 5-1 odds. I just put the phone on top of it. All right, we're going to get to more comments as we go along. One Smoke says, by the way, he doesn't care about the schedule. Ready? I'm assuming it's a he. Ready for a 4. I shouldn't assume anything. Ready for a 4-13. See, I've seen other people say that they're going to go 11-6. Not me. Ray Steyer, good morning. Should the Saints bring Morstead back? Sure, why not? But he already gave his number 6 away. Why would he come back now? Owen Attilio, good morning. All right, we're going to get some more comments. Before I bring in Mr. Grub, let me remind you, especially you regulars, you know about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you, someone you know, someone you love, someone you care about, have them reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you'll you will be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you decide to proceed. What happens after that? Well, they'll bring you in. They'll have you set up like Derek Carr, baby. You have the roles. You have your own podcast. People be snoozing through. All the people with sleep problems will be watching your podcast and snoozing. And meanwhile, you'll have a Rolls Royce to talk about. Well, maybe not that good. But anyway, whatever it is, we'll fill you in later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. See, I mean, Mark Gapsky slept in today. He must have watched the Cars podcast. Earl's Pick says, we're going 500. He's got faith. Who dat? Rocky, you're late. No problem. Glad you're here. All right, let's move on. I'm sighing already, David Grubb. It's just, I'm still not over it. I mean, Friday, and I know you were on the complete opposite spectrum from me in the whole Derek Carr situation, but Friday I put together a short saying how get over it, you haters. Derek Carr is going to be the starting quarterback of this team in 2025. We don't care if you like it or not. I mean, I didn't say it like that, but I basically said that. And then Saturday morning, my phone blows up and I'm getting the text, and I didn't really know whether to believe it or not, but it's true. The big bad witch is gone and he's never coming back. And 85% of the fan base is happy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Another exciting night of NBA playoffs, man. I think like that game last night, I just will say this. That feels like a seminal moment in NBA history.
It does.
Like as far as like the next few years, like it feels like the night that the Oklahoma City Thunder grew up.
Yeah.
That you saw them become a legitimate championship team. Like, I think when you look at teams that win 60 games, you look at what happened to the Cavs and them bowing out. Like you can be a fraudulent 60-win team, and we see it with the Atlanta Hawks one year. I remember they won 60 games and were gone in the second round. To watch that young team claw back the way they did and play these last two fourth quarters, and I think they've outscored Dallas Denver something like 60 something to 37 over the last two games in the fourth quarter. It just felt like, yeah, Oklahoma City has arrived.
Can you just
now.
can SGA just wear the S on his chest? I mean, it just works, right? I mean, you just wear the S on his chest.
Jeez. I mean, the shots that he knocked down in that fourth quarter are just amazing. And then you get, Lou Dort knocking down shots as well. The defensive effort that they put in. Denver went like 8 minutes without a bucket. That's just
we're going to get to the Pelicans in a minute, but why? I mean, the Pelicans and the Thunder are basically in a similar market kind of team. I don't want to, again, we'll get to the Pelicans in a minute, but they were in the same boat not that long ago. How is it that this team is now an NBA championship contender and the other one is, well, where we are?
Competency, commitment from ownership, those types of things. Like I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter where you are in any city. I mean, we've seen the Saints win. We've seen, teams turn it around. It's all about, do you have a total commitment on every level of your organization? When you have alignment from the owner to your GM or whoever your top executive is to the coach, and you're picking good players, you're going to win games. It's just that simple, no matter the sport. But when you have misalignment, if you have one group only looking to make sure they make the most money, if you have another group that's dealing, that has personal ties to one thing or the other, if you have incompetent coaching, if one of those things fails, you can't win. So you've got to have everything in alignment. And right now, the Thunder have everything in alignment. They've got the best executive in the league. They've got an incredible future ahead of them. Because remember, they still got plenty of cap room. They got plenty of number one picks on the horizon. And all their best players are under the age of 26.
Man, now I'm just like super jealous. I mean, this is what we should be doing right now. I mean, it really is. Before we go any further, by the way, David, I know you got so much stuff going on right now. You're doing so many different things, and I wanted to let you tell it that you got so many things going. But tell everybody what you're doing right now.
Still editor-in-chief at the Bird Rights, and then I started hosting this new podcast called The Post Up with Boo Crew Media. It's a good partnership. They're trying to, they've been a fan site for a long time and have addressed the fans, but now they want to add some news to it, and I'm glad to be the first trained journalist to join them and give them bring something new to the audience. And I'm really looking forward to this season. I think it's going to be a fantastic an interesting offseason in the NBA. I think this could be one of the most dynamic offseasons in the history of the league.
I'm going to say this. If you had to pick either the Pelicans or the Saints were going to surprise people in their next season of play, okay, I think there's no doubt it would be the Pelicans, right? The Pelicans are set up to where, as bad as this season was, they really are set up to where they could be good again. They could just pick up where 2023, 24 left off if they can get everything done correctly. Of course, you want them to be able to hit in this draft, but I mean, just stay healthy first off.
Well, I think the big thing is the Pelicans can be one of the most influential and important teams in the league as we build up towards the draft because of the power that they hold over these Milwaukee picks. And I know people are disappointed about the lottery, but there's some positive to the Spurs landing second because they've been so attached to that Giannis deal. And if the Spurs want to make that deal, everybody knows that the Bucks want their picks back, at least one of them. They want to get one of those controlled picks back. So if you can make that deal, I think that number 2 is still on the table for the Pelicans in this draft. And if that's the case, if you're facilitating a Giannis deal, imagine a scenario. And I think it's not, I think 100% likely, but I think it's very possible. Imagine a scenario where the Pelicans still end up with the number 2 pick, getting that from the Spurs. And you end up maybe with their 14 or still holding on to your 7 this year and get 2 bites of the apple in the first round in a good draft, and then possibly get into it in next year, which I think is an even better draft.
And then who knows? Maybe you have the son of a saint. You have the son of a saint if you could move up and into the spot of him too. I did not know that Roman Harper's kid was the guy that was up there and going to be the number 2 pick, likely Rutgers with the possible.
Oh, that's Ron Harper's son. Ron Harper.
Oh, okay, it's Ron Harper. They told me it was Roman Harper's son. Somebody told me yesterday
Harper.
That was Ron Harper's son. Okay, so.
Yeah, former Bulls, champion, and Lakers and Cavs and all that. So it's his son. Yeah.
Well, I've only been wrong like 4 times, four major mistakes since Friday. So why not add to him?
We're always we've been wrong, and I think people sometimes want us to be prognosticators, but hey, wrong is part of it. I think the difference between us and some other folks is like, I can admit when I'm wrong. I'm going to be wrong in the future.
Yeah, I'll let everybody know I'm be wrong again.
Yeah, like I will be wrong in the future, but I'm never going to stand on my wrong. If I'm proven wrong, I'm going to move on. I'm going to say I was wrong and keep it moving.
I deleted the crows flying around and squawking off my media assets this morning. That's okay. All right, David Grubb here with us this morning. I want to talk about this the 7th pick. Let's just assume for everything for a moment that the Pels stay at 7. The script went, look, they got lucky. We'll talk about the Mavs in a second, but look, it stayed the way that percentages said it would stay for the Pelicans. They're picking 7th. They have to look at what are they looking at if they stay in this 7th spot. What kind of things, what kind of players, what position you think they're looking at? What do you think makes the most sense for this team now that Joe Dumars is the GM and Willie's staying?
We know the biggest needs for the Pelicans are playmaking. You've got to have somebody to take over that point guard spot while DeJounte Murray is gone, whether or not you have plans to keep him for the long term. You always need shooting. That's something that you always want to add when you're, in the NBA, certainly. And then, of course, you need height. Like, this team was very small, one of the smallest teams in the NBA last year, if not the smallest. It was terrible rebounding, terrible at rim protection. So I think that there are a number of options with that regard, depending on how this draft falls. Because I think, the weird part of this draft is that all of the top 4 teams fell.
Right.
Like Charlotte fell. Of course, the Jazz and the Wizards are very disappointed to be at 5 and 6 themselves. So it's interesting to see how people view the players in those different draft positions now, especially when you have teams like the Spurs who will probably be looking to trade. Because what do the Spurs need with another 19-year-old right now? You know what I mean? Like, you've gotten back-to-back rookies of the year. It's time to win if you're San Antonio. You can't invest in another kid. You've been investing in kids the last 5 years. And you look at a team like Philly, too, at 3, and what do they really want? Because certainly they want to get cheaper, but they've got to think about a major deal, too, because you don't know if Joel Embiid's going to play again with the knee that deteriorating quickly. You don't know what Paul George's status is for next year and how well he's going to be able to play. So I think the Sixers are another team that could be making a big move, and I think there are going to be a lot of moves in general in this draft. But if you're the Pelicans, you're looking at guys, Certainly Common Malawak, the center from Duke,
Yep.
7'2" kid, has a lot of potential
Raw,
there.
real raw, right?
Raw, but you look at his numbers. I mean, this kid put up historic numbers as an offensive rebounder. He put up his net rating was plus 54. Plus 54 while he's on the floor. The offensive rating was a 134. His defensive rating was a 94. So those are amazing numbers. And the kid they compare him to Rudy Gobert, but he's bigger. Like he's 7'2", 250 legitimately.
And you expect him to still be there at 7?
I think he could be because, the teams ahead of you, there aren't a lot of center needs. Philly's not drafting a center right now.
Right.
San Antonio's not drafting a center. Washington just drafted their center last year, at the top of the draft. So there's a lot of teams that don't need a center. So I think he could be there. Another guy is Trey Johnson from Texas, the shooter. He has it's just a lot of athleticism at 6'5", but it's just a knockdown shooter. Shot 40% from 3 last season. Very good. And I think the young man out of Oklahoma, his name is slipping right now, but the point guard out of Oklahoma at 6'4", an incredible shot maker, not as good from 3 yet, but shot 87% from the foul line. So I think you can see some improvement from him there as well. So I think there are a number of options for the Pelicans, and there'll be guys who rise up the board throughout this process. But there are good options at 7. I don't think it was a disappointment, certainly, but I don't think this is a disaster for the Pelicans.
The Pels already drafted a point guard from Oklahoma once. He's playing for the Golden State Warriors now, and that would have been nice if they could have kept him. But that's a whole different story. We'll get it.
Well, you made the Boogie deal. You had to give to get. You know what I mean? You had to give to get.
Ron Hendrickson said, good morning. And Mally Mal, one of our regulars, wants to ask you, what is in it for the Spurs to give up the number 2 pick? What would have to happen there?
Well, then you're looking at a 3-team deal. You're trying to make that deal with the Bucks and be the Pelicans as the facilitator for those picks. So I think you could, let's say you take that 2 from the Spurs get Giannis, which is what they want. That's the thing is if they get Giannis, they're not taking picks with Giannis. You just want to get Giannis. But if you're the Pelicans, let's say your part of the deal is you give Milwaukee their pick back for 2027. And you take back 2 this year, and you're still able to get Dylan Harper at 2, which I think would fit the Pelicans' needs greatly. And then let's say you take back a Keldon Johnson, a very talented wing who could help you out immediately. Let's say, or Jeremy Sohan, or one of those, or Harrison Barnes, a veteran who's on an expiring contract, who can immediately play the stretch 4 for you and knock down corner threes. The Pelicans have been burned by him plenty of times, knocking down shots over the years. So I think that you could take back one of these. Their Spurs have a number of expiring contracts or talented young players that you could take back who can help you immediately if you're the Pelicans. And if you can get that number 2 again, and take that, I think that that's a reasonable deal because I think everybody's happy. If you're the Bucks, they get a player or 2 from the Spurs. The Pelicans get 1 player and those picks. And if you're the Spurs, you get Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think that's a 3-way deal that works for everybody.
And David, one thing that's different about basketball than in football for sure is it doesn't matter that you're in the same division. They don't really care that much. You're just going to make whatever trade. So the Spurs wouldn't really be, dissuaded to do the trade because they're in the same division as Pelicans. That doesn't matter.
No. And I mean, look, the West is the West. And folks can get mad, about the West is going to be deep. I mean, with the Mavericks getting the number 1 pick, with the Spurs getting the number 2 pick, the Rockets are coming off a 50-plus win season where they were the number 2 seed in the West. Like this division and Memphis was still a team that made the playoffs as well. It's a deep Western Conference, and it's going to stay deep no matter what. So if you're the Pelicans, I don't think the strength of the rest of the conference is something to dissuade you from making moves this offseason. It's going to be strong for the next decade, no matter what.
Yeah, well, Mally Mal says that makes sense. One Smoke says he wouldn't mind trading up for Harper, and then says actually he loves it. So, I mean, what is your opinion on that? Is it something that you think that I don't want to tie you down a percentage or whatever, but you think it's something that's a real possibility that could happen?
I do, because I think Joe Dumars knows that this fan base is teetering.
Yeah,
you know what
they
I mean?
Really are.
You're on the verge of losing this fan base
they really
for a number of reasons, and they're dissatisfied more than just for the on-court product. Is that they've never seen a real vision for this organization and this franchise. I don't think that it's never established an identity. And I think that's the difference between the Pelicans and the Saints, because even when the Saints were bad, they've had an identity. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you had something that you thought about with the team. So the Pelicans have never really had that, whether it's defining that. And I think that's what Joe Dumars understands. And I think you have to make a decision. So I think you have a motivated Zion Williamson, you hope, that looked good in his 30 games last season, who showed up to the lottery looking fit. He didn't look like he already started to put on any off-season weight or anything, and he's been out of action for a good month now. So you'd expect that if he was going to slack, he'd already have started slacking. So you don't see that. So I think if you're the Pelicans, you have two options. You go into this season and you say, if you're sticking with Zion, and I think that they are, you don't send him to the lottery. If
Right,
you're not,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think you go into this and you say, if we're really bad at the halfway mark, if we've done our moves and we're still bad, okay, now we can move Zion. And I think there will be good deals for that down the road. But if we're healthy and good, and I think that's a possibility, if you can retool this offseason, you make the right moves, fix the bench. The bench, to me, is the biggest problem for the Pelicans. They had no depth. Fix that bench and make some moves. You got to move CJ McCollum, I think, and there are other deals that you can make. If you're back in, you're not going to get into the top half of the West, but let's say you're back in 8 for this season. You get healthy and you're back in 8, 9, 10, but you are a 500 and above team again. I think if you're
that's a win.
Now you've got real buy-in, because you still got Zion under contract for 2 more years. And you can make the moves in the upcoming offseason and another good draft, and you start really making your push.
David, they don't bring in, I know there was a lot of controversy around fans and whatever about Joe Dumars and that he wasn't the right choice and whatever, blah, 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 because the last few years he hasn't done much and even whatever. But the reason why you bring in, and I said this from the beginning, and I was happy about it, because the reason why you bring in a guy like Joe Dumars is because it means you're going to be aggressive. I mean, it means you're going in, you think you're ready real soon, and you bring in a guy like, so whether you like Joe Dumars or don't like Joe Dumars, to me, it sends a signal. It sends a signal that you think, hey, we're closer than a lot of people may think we are, and this is a guy that's going to go out and do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, and you look at Troy Weaver's record as well. This is a guy who never saw a trade he didn't like. In every draft that he was in charge of, he made a trade to try to get better. And he built that young core in Detroit that people liked so much this season. You know, the Pistons made that giant jump in 1 year, and he basically put that team together. There were problems internally in Detroit for Troy Weaver, but we have to remember, before David Griffin got hired, Troy Weaver was one of the hot names that was attached to possibly taking over the Pelicans job, because he was so well thought of. The things that he did in Oklahoma City before Sam Presti arrived. He's the guy who tabbed Russell Westbrook when nobody thought Russell Westbrook was a point guard. He was like, we can make that guy a point guard. You know, he found it. He has a history of identifying really good young talent. So I think Joe Dumars, as he builds out his brain trust, you have people in Bryson Graham, too, internally, who's done a good job in these drafts the last 3 years with the Pelicans after some missteps for David Griffin in his first 2 years at the helm. Bryson Graham has really helped the Pelicans be one of the better drafting teams in the NBA the last few years. You have people who have a track record of identifying young talent. That's good when you're in a small market team. You have to be able to do that. And then the other part is, like you said, Joe Dumars, at the very least, he's not going to talk to you, and he said this in his press conference. He doesn't want to talk to you about the slogans and those types of things. What he wants to identify is a certain type of player, and that mentality that he's going to ask for is somebody who can win, who's going to compete every night, who's going to be a professional and do their job. And if they don't, they won't be long for New Orleans, I don't think. I don't think there's going to be a long rope with some of these guys as there may have been in the past in New Orleans. I think that's what people felt like David Griffin gave Brandon Ingram, gave Zion Williamson a little too much leash to engage in their worst impulses. That will not be the case with Joe Dumars. Whether he succeeds or fails, he's going to be very definitive about what he does with this team.
I just think about Joe Dumars, the player, and the team that he played on back in the day, and maybe no tougher team that I ever remember watching growing up than the Detroit Pistons, and just the whole mentality of that Pistons team that I'm sure carried over with Joe Dumars far after his playing days. And that's why I'm kind of fired up. I really am kind of fired up about this. And last question on the Pels. I mean, considering where this team is, David, are you at least fired up might not be the word, but encouraged, feel good about what the direction to me, they've had to hit their bottom, right?
I feel optimistic. You know what I mean? I want to see how aggressive Joe is in the offseason. I want to see what he does leading up to the draft. I think the thing that you want to see is them be deliberate, but not desperate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like whenever front offices get desperate and feel like they've got to hit a home run with their move, sometimes the more subtle move is the home run. You know, it's like making there may be 3 good moves that equate one great move. And I think that's what I want to see out of Joe Dumars, because there are so many things as far as the bench. You look at that Pelicans bench and you had a bunch of G leaguers and cast-offs on that bench. And I think that if you can overhaul this in the offseason, if you have reasonable goals, they're not going to win a championship this year. Don't expect that. But can you get back to, as you said, get back on that path, get to 42 wins and just be above 500, win your games at home. And that's something that I think Pelicans fans would really like to see. You've never had a home court advantage winning games at home. Even when they won 49 games, they only won 21 games at home. You have to win at home. And I think that's where this starts. If they can do those things, then I think people will start coming back to the arena.
I was there for that game, the second to last game, the last game, or the second to last game against Miami, where they gave up 151 points or whatever it was, and brought my daughters. And look, my daughters love it, but I'm sorry. The reason why people go to Pelicans games shouldn't be because they want to catch a T-shirt or see who's singing at halftime. And my 13-year-old and 9-year-old daughters love the entire Pelicans atmosphere, which is great. They should keep the kids involved. They should want the kids to go back when they become adults. They're doing a great job PR-wise, but that's not the reason why people should want to go to Pelicans game. And really, at the last half of last year, that's the only reason to go. And so this team needs to get exciting again. And I know my son, when we went to a playoff game a couple years ago, one of the most fun times we've had together in the last few years. That's what I want the city to be able to enjoy again. And it can happen a lot sooner, I think, than people think.
I just want to break that narrative. And I'm tired of people and I respect DeMarcus Cousins a lot. I think he was a warrior in his career. At one time, he was the best center in the NBA. There's no denying how good he was when he was healthy. But I'm tired of seeing people say New Orleans is not a basketball town. Yeah. New Orleans has an incredible basketball history. The state of Louisiana has a great basketball history. People have always loved basketball in this state. But it's just like in anything else. When you don't feel engaged with the organization, when you don't feel that they are working towards its own best interest, let alone yours, then fans are not going to be engaged. And to say that, we both know there was a time when the Saints couldn't sell out the Superdome. It wasn't that long ago, people. Nope. Like when Energy used to have to buy tickets on Thursday to make sure that there wasn't a blackout on Sunday.
That's right.
I remember those days. So let's not always pretend that New Orleans has been a diehard football town in that regard, as far as showing up when the team was bad. When teams are bad, fans don't show. It's that simple. You get good and the people will come.
You know what? If the Saints don't get better soon, Energy is going to have to be buying tickets again before too long. Actually, I think they got rid of the blackout rule. I don't think it exists any longer. But you know what I mean, because that waiting list for Saints tickets, as they say, ain't there no more. Let's just talk about that real quick. Mally Miles been saying this. He keeps putting something about Willie up there, so I'm gonna show it. I don't agree. I've made my opinion known on this. I think Willie Green, I understand why people are off the Willie train. Last year's as tough as it gets. He's going down. But I just think if he were an older coach, I might feel differently. But the fact that he's a young coach, I think that has so much promise, David. I really do. And last year, no one would have won last year with what they went through. I just want to see what he can do. I really want to see one more chance, just what he can do. I'd like to get your feelings on that. Not that it matters what we think, because he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've already made that decision. The only thing that I would say no matter what your opinion of Willie Green is, I never like new administrations being saddled with other people's decisions.
Is it right?
And that's the hard part for me is like, you have to wait a year really to assess this for Joe Dumars to make a decision. And I think and you also are likely to lose James Borrego on the
Yep.
offensive side, because there was
I'm
definite
surprised they haven't
conflict
already.
between them two philosophically. Like, he and Willie just weren't on the same page, and they haven't been for the 2 years that they've been together. So if Borrego's out, then you've got to get another experienced offensive mind on that sideline. And Willie's got to make some changes himself. I think that there were times, absolutely, that he was on the verge of losing that locker room if he didn't. I think that there are guys that saw some inconsistency in the way he treated certain guys. Like, there was more deference given to Brandon Ingram at times when he was there compared to other guys. I know he and Trey Murphy got off to a difficult start when Trey arrived in New Orleans, and I don't know how their relationship is to this day. So I think Willie has to make some changes. He has to go look himself in the mirror, and in year 5 of his career, what kind of coach do you want to be? Because the strength that he was, and I still think his best job was in year 1,
No
holding
question.
that team together. And his strength was supposed to be communication. And I think that's been something that has lacked the last couple seasons, whether it's been in his ability to communicate with the media, and for them to understand some of the decisions that he's made, and then communicating with his players. It has to be a clear vision. Nobody, I think you're right. No coach's potential is determined. But to say that at right now, I think the Pelican fans are also right to be disappointed in the job that he's done. So, like, my biggest thing, again, is I do not like new executives being hampered by previous regime decisions, but we'll see how they get along. Clearly, they've known each other, obviously, for a while. Willie was in high school in Detroit, while Joe was in Detroit as an executive and as in later stages. So he's known him a long time. And I'm certain, and as we've seen before, the Bensons, and that their group does not like to fire coaches that are under contract. But you also got to remember, too, this is a league now where the average coach's salary starts at somewhere around $7 million. And Willie Green is getting less than half of that. So it's not a prohibitive cost to move on from him if the Pelicans get off to a slow start this season.
See, this is why I can never be a GM, because I guess throughout my career, especially the last 12 years, I'm more sympathetic to coaches and anyone really not being fired. And you've been through the employment carousel yourself. You know exactly what I'm talking. It's no fun. I don't wish it on anyone. Even back in Dennis Allen, it was so hard to say, look, the Saints need to move on, because I was thinking about Dennis Allen, the person, and being, empathetic, sympathetic, whatever you want to talk about, to that situation that we've been in. And sometimes, man, it's easy if you're a fan, you're sitting here and you're screaming at your TV saying, fire him. But you're not, thinking about what what they've gone through and what, Willie Green has gone through throughout his career. Again, I know that's not the right way to think about it, and I'm not a general manager, but it's just, emotionally, it's part of the whole thing.
There are people, and that's all. There's always a person cost when you trade a person. You're talking about uprooting a family and things like that. When you cut somebody, I think you do want to remember that there's a humanity to this. You want to deal with things with the humanities, but it's also a results-oriented business, and nowhere else are these results on display like they are in the world of sports. There's no hiding from the win and the loss column.
No, and we get paid to tell what we think, even if whatever. And Mal, you're right. As the late Tom Benson used to say, it's a business. It is most definitely a business. Before we move on into the Saints, I want to ask you your thoughts on, again, I wasn't trying to put words in your mouth before I put you back on the screen, but look, I'm just going to tell you the way that I think it is, without saying that it's rigged. I'm just saying that if someone were to write a script of how you were going to have an NBA lottery go, that is how you would write a script. Not saying they wrote a script. I'm saying that if you were to write a script, that's how you would write the script. And it just, this is the biggest problem I have with the NBA in the grand scheme of things. It's almost like it's getting to WWE. It's almost like we're writing things down and saying, this is how things should go. And sometimes, it makes it fun for some people, but I want the old NBA back, man. I want just, I know it's not coming back. I get it, but the NBA that I grew up with is the one that I miss, and it's just not there anymore. And I get so upset about certain things. And when I turned it on, I'm watching this, and I'm like, when they showed the top 4 picks before they showed what order they were going to be in, I knew I was certain. I knew which one was going to get the number one pick, and it's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
I'm going to say this because I'm a journalist, so I have to
Exactly,
use
I
my
know.
journalism hat. I can't say anything like but I'll say this: the draft lottery. I don't know how many people know this, but you can watch the entire draft lottery. You can watch the ball
I did
selection
not know
process.
that. Really? How do you watch that? I want to know.
There's a feed on NBA TV and on YouTube and stuff. You can watch them select the balls as
Did
they
you watch it?
come out of the hopper. I don't watch it. You know what I mean? Like I'm just here to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like that's my job. But
can I go back and watch it as they did it?
Yeah, you can go back and you can watch the whole thing and you can see. Like I think the one thing that you have that kind of dissipates a conspiracy theory is that you have an outside firm that has to handle this, and they are subjecting themselves. They're subjecting themselves to fraud if they are part of it. It is, bro.
I knew you were going to shoot me down. I knew you were going to shoot me down.
People say, people are asking how about broadcasting on national TV? You don't want to watch it. Like it's a long process. It is a long process of them. That's ball
why it's
popping
on
a
YouTube.
boom, boom, boom. So they show that part of it. People want the results. That's what you want. You don't want to sit there and watch it. They used to do it. Remember how boring it was when they used to show each one going up, boom, boom, and they would have to count it. It was a long and if you're doing it like that, it doesn't make good television. But you can watch it. You can go back right now every year. It is broadcast on the NBA's channel. It's broadcast on social media.
Gabe is saying that firm, and I don't know if this is true or not. So this is just what my producer Gabe is saying. Says that firm has been charged with fraud before. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I don't want to make any allegations against people and have somebody throw me a lawsuit.
Exactly.
But,
no, that's also true, and it also goes to same thing I was saying about Willie Green. These are still people. We're all working. So. Again, I'm just saying that if you were to write a script, I'm not saying that a script was written. It just saying this is why people question these things, because it's just so odd. When the Pelicans got not so much Zion, I don't think, but when they got AD, you kind of had a feeling that was going to happen, right? I just think I don't know. It's just so many odd coincidences, I guess.
Yeah, there are. There absolutely are. And I think that, but I'm with you on the bigger scheme of things, like beyond the lottery, this feeling that sports is becoming way more entertainment than sport, and that athletes view themselves as entertainers rather than athletes by and large. And things I'm more concerned about Draymond Green saying 5.5 points at the end of a game and his team shooting for three when and then not fouling. You know what I'm saying? Like you're simply taking that shot to what it appears to be try to cover the spread. That to me is way more concerning. Is an out and out would look like a team conspiring on the court to make sure that they covered the spread. That's a problem. You weren't playing to win the game. You're talking about the spread on the court during a game. That's to me, that's a suspension, right? Like we just had Pete Rose deal with all this stuff that we're talking about with Pete Rose.
That's coming up later on this show, by the way.
You know what I mean? And then at the same time, you've got players on the court talking about point spreads. And I think, and you look at a guy like Kevin Durant, when he says, when people ask him what he cares about, and he says, I cared about my check, I cared about making buckets, and I care about getting women. When he says that, it makes you look at these players a heck of a lot differently. It makes you think all you want to be is you just want to have this lifestyle. Are you really a competitor? And I think that American basketball players in particular view themselves as independent contractors. Winning is secondary. If you can find a way to win to enhance your brand, then cool. But otherwise, you're an independent contractor. I'm here to show off my skills, get the money I can get to that third contract, right? So that you can make the $60 million annually and take up a third of somebody's cap. That's where everybody wants to
get.
Like
that in college now, too, right?
It's, this is what we've made everything.
Absolutely.
Everything in life now is about the dollar. And that to me, whatever your station in life, if all you do it for is the money, if that's your motivation, you'll never be great. You'll never be great because you're chasing the dollar rather than your own personal best. And at a certain point, the money, you're satisfied with the money. And I think you look at a guy like the reason Kevin Durant's career will never be viewed the same level of Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and all those things is because he looks like a mercenary rather than a basketball player.
Couldn't agree more. And I'll just throw this out there. I mean, I moved over from the high school ranks to We started bet.nola.com in 2021, and I moved over. I was to sports betting because I've always been intrigued and enjoyed it, and done it reasonably. But I found that look, I've been out of sports betting now for a little over a year. And I found that I don't enjoy it nearly as much because I find that as we go along, exactly what you said, the players are now, there's so much embracing of it. It's hard to trust in all the, again, this is probably for another show, but to go to your point, I don't bet nearly as much as I used to. I don't follow the betting nearly as much as I used to. Now, again, it's not because I'm not a sports betting writer anymore, but it's not the same. And again, when you're talking about the players talking about these sorts of things on TV and knowing what their over under win total is and knowing what their odds were to win the Super Bowl or whatever it might be, you see it all the time. And now it's like, like you said, Pete Rose got banned from baseball and gets to come back 7.5 months after he's dead. But now it's like embraced, and we got teams in Vegas and all these sorts of things. So again, probably a completely different show, but I agree with you that is disheartening, and it is definitely changed sports.
And having a network like ESPN have its own betting channel where it runs spreads throughout the broadcast. Right. Like,
can you imagine that 10 years ago?
Like, can you imagine like in Pete Rozell's NFL? Imagine it then. Like it was hard enough, like Jimmy the Greek and those guys, it was always seemed like, is this a little dirty? Like it felt like people would be like, is this a little dirty to have
Bart Giamatti's MLB or Faye Vincent's MLB? It just wouldn't happen. Can't happen.
Yeah.
All right, before we let you go, I do want to talk a little bit about Saints and ask your opinion on some things. Again, I'm going to check this real quick as we go along. Nothing else new on the Saints front, except we know that they're on the road the week after Thanksgiving. So we got Arizona at home in week 1, according to the rumor mill, which is usually pretty right. In fact, they're about 99%. NFL Nerd, I believe, on Twitter. This guy's about 99% getting these reports. And so Arizona in week 1, the Giants in week 5, both at home. If you go and look, there's plenty of others. Giants have like 10 of their games filled in. I think the Chiefs have a bunch of their games filled in as well. But does it really matter in the grand scheme of things, David, what the schedule looks like? This team, obviously, rebuilding mode. Now that one thing about Carr being gone is, I think we can all agree that whether we thought it before or think it now, there's no doubt that this team is in rebuilding mode.
Yeah, and like Mickey Loomis can't avoid it. You know what I mean? Like you can't kick that can any further. You are in a full rebuild. And as you mentioned earlier, to have 3 quarterbacks that are likely going to make your roster, and none of them has ever had a win. I guess if you still say Taysom Hill, Taysom has some wins under his belt that, you could, I guess, kind of count it in an emergency that you have some wins on the roster. But yeah, I think this is the best thing possible for a young coach. Like to have the expectations gone for him. Whatever he does this year, nobody's going to say unless they just look abysmal on the field. Like you're looking now, the record doesn't matter to me in year 1 now. What I'm looking for is how do they play football each week? Is he in command of this team as a first-time head coach? Does Kellen Moore, when he walks on the field, does he look competent? I think that was one of the things that when you looked at Dennis Allen, he just never looked in charge. He never had that gravitas of the head coach. Does Kellen Moore look confident in week 1 with his game plan? Is he able to be decisive about what he wants to do? How long does he let this quarterback battle go on this offseason? You know what I mean? Like make that decision early and stick with it. I don't think you want to have a long battle for either one of these kids. It's not great for either one of them. You want to make a decision and let your rookie know whomever or your second year guy, if it's Spencer Rattler, make that decision early. And I think that's what you want to see is decisiveness in choosing the direction of this team, because you still have a lot of older guys on this defense that won't be here years down the road. So there's going to be change over there. And you want to start seeing, how does he integrate some of these younger players? How do these free agents look that they've brought in this offseason? Like the record will be what it is. And in the NFL, you will level out somewhere. There'll be games that you steal and there'll be games that you blow, just because it's the nature of the beast. But I think, can they look like a competent football team? Do they practice well? Do they show up at games? Are they still missing tackles like they were last year? Are they giving up big plays on the back end of the defense? If you've cleaned those things up and you still go 5-12, If you go 6-11, but you've cleaned those things up, I think most fans would be, at least you'd say, we're going in a positive direction.
Jim Derry here with David Grubb on the Dattitude podcast, presented by Evangeline Securities on this Wednesday morning, May the 14th. We're glad you're with us as not only does the calendar start creeping more towards summer, but apparently the thermometer as well. It's going to be really hot the rest of this week, and I ain't looking forward to it. I don't know about you, David, but I hate summer the older I get.
I am not a summer fan.
Me neither. The more gray that comes in this beard, the less I like summer. But you know what that means? It means that we're getting schedules released today, being released officially later on this evening. And that also means that the Saints will soon go into have their mandatory mini camp. So we'll see what's going on. We'll see. I'm very interested about Kelvin Banks. There are a lot of things to be looking at. Is Kelvin Banks going to play left tackle? Is he going to play left guard? Is he going to, what do they do with Trevor Penning? There are so many scripts to write over the course of this offseason, so many things to be interested in, at least now. And look, just because I was in Derek Carr's corner as far as I thought he was getting a little bit too much grief, I'm glad that saga is over. And now, very soon, we won't mention his name anymore. I mean, it's coming up really soon that the point's coming. We won't mention his name anymore. And this will be Kellen Moore's team with either Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler or whoever it is. It's going to be a new team. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, that part of it is exciting.
It has to be. Like, if it's not, then what are we doing this for? What do you do? Why are you a fan? Why are we in the media? If you don't look at each season as an opportunity and come in from the beginning, you let the evidence be what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the evidence will tell. By the end of the story, we'll have whatever answers we have. But if you don't go into each season and say, this is an opportunity and they could surprise me, if they could do better than I expect, if you don't hold some space for that, then why are we doing this? Like turn in your season tickets and stop watching, stop covering them. Because if you already know the outcome, if that's the way you're going to live each and every year, then the whole thing about sports is that it's the only true drama we have left, right? Like, that's why we love sports so much, is that we don't know what we don't know. So you can't judge what humans are going to do under the stress of battle.
The motto that I stole from a commercial about 20 years ago, it remains the same. Without hope, life is meaningless, right? So there
Exactly.
you go with that. Is there anything schedule-wise? I mean, we talked about potentially Arizona being the opener, according Nick Underhill's reporting that. Other rumor sites are reporting that as well, opening with Arizona at home. But is there any formula would you rather see with a rookie head coach? And let's be honest. I mean, whether it's Tyler Shuck at quarterback or Spencer Rattler, they might as well both be rookies. I mean, Spencer Rattler got thrown to the fire, but would you rather see the schedule be easier in the beginning, or does it matter to you? I mean, we don't want to play Buffalo on the road in December. You don't really want to go to Chicago in December either, but it is what it is. But how would you like to see this schedule made up?
I think the thing you hope for, if you got young quarterbacks, is that you play some more of your home games earlier. You know what I mean? I think to give them that opportunity to have some comfort rather than go on the road early and maybe struggle on the road where, you stack up some losses and lose some confidence. I think you want for young quarterbacks, if you can play a few more of your home games at the earlier part of the season,
right,
allow the home fans to kind of get an idea about the team, get behind the team. Because look, if let's say you play 3 out of 4 on the road and you come back 1-3 and you look really bad, by the time you play that next home game, the fans are already checked out. You know what I mean? Like in a certain level. So if you play those home games early, and at least if you can get some optimism going, if you can get a little bit of, hey, I saw some good things this last Sunday. You get the fans going a little bit, and they start building up some positive, momentum. I think that would be what I'd like. And then, certainly you look for how interspersed are these division games, because the focus in year one for me is, can you go 500 in the division at the very least? Do that job and focus on that. So where are those games going to be placed according to the schedule? We know it's usually the last two, in the first two, the first couple of in the tour in that first month and a half.
Yeah.
So where do those middle games fall? And I think the last thing is, how much does the NFL look at the Saints as a TV product anymore? Because certainly the ratings are usually high for a Saints Sunday night home game. But with this team now, with no real player to sell, you know what I mean? Like, who are you selling if you're selling the Saints right now? You're not selling Cam Jordan to a national audience. You're not selling Tyrann Mathieu to a national audience. You're not even selling Alvin Kamara to a national audience. So does the NFL punish the Saints in that regard, where they've usually been pretty generous in giving them primetime games?
I had a debate with my good friend Uncle Big Nick yesterday, as a matter of fact. He says the Saints will not get a primetime game. I said they'll probably still give them one. My guess is it would be earlier in the season.
Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one.
Actually,
Thursday, right?
Not
one of them bad Thursdays.
You usually get one, but not always. And but I do think they will get a Thursday. I think they'll get an early Thursday game, probably on the road. Who knows?
End up on that. Maybe that's San Francisco game, at home becomes something that people would. Who knows? And then you get flexed at the end of the year. So if you're better than people think, you get a little flex action.
Man, boy, you're really hopeful talking about the Saints potentially getting flexed later in the year. Boy.
Maybe. Who knows?
Wow, who knows? Man, that would be something. Do you care who the quarterback is? I mean, Shuck's got to be the favorite, right? Going to the club, leading into the clubhouse.
I mean, if you invested a second round pick. And and
he's your guy.
They haven't drafted this high since Archie. Like, this is not an organization that drafts quarterbacks high. If you're willing to invest that, then you go ahead and do it. Unless Spencer Rattler beats him out fair and square early. Like I said, I'd like the decision to be made early. Like, and because I think the year that Jameis and Taysom fought it out, I think that was a detriment to both of those guys to make them fight it all the way down to the last minute. I don't think either one of them got to be situated as and really secure as the starter. And I think in the NFL, that's so important for a starting quarterback to just know that they're the guy and be able to get reps. And I think for Shuck in particular, he needs as many reps against a pass rush as possible, because if that's the biggest knock on him, is that he's not great against the rush. So get him those reps and try to get that out of his system.
Yeah, well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Lastly, what do you think about Kelvin Banks? I mean, I'm really fired up about Kelvin Banks. Look, I'm in the minority. I know most people give them a high grade for their draft. I'm not happy with the positions and where they drafted her. I thought there were bigger needs. I'm upset that they didn't. Not upset isn't the right word, but I guess disappointed is probably the word. That I wish they would have drafted a wide receiver early in this draft. They didn't draft one at all. But all that being said, I'm really excited about Kelvin Banks because he gives more versatility to this offensive line. You're talking about a 21-year-old who started 42 games at Texas. That's a big deal. A team captain can come in and he can play left tackle, he can play right tackle, potentially play left guard. I'm really fired up to see what this rookie can do.
We know how important the offensive line is to the success of this team. And certainly, as we just talked about, Tyler Shuck and his aversion to pressure, Kelvin Banks is going to have a big role in making sure that there is no pressure on Tyler Shuck. So I think when you look at Kelvin Banks, that versatility is huge. He comes from a background in that Steve Sarkisian offense where it's a pro offense, that there's a lot of verbiage, there's a lot of responsibilities for that offensive line. So he should know how to adapt relatively. And you look at that build. I mean, he looks the part.
He does.
And the Saints have done, it's been hit or miss at times, but when they've hit on offensive linemen, they've hit them very well. So if this kid is what people think he is, then you got somebody for 10 years, hopefully, avoiding injuries. But they need an offense. And we've talked about this all the time. Every great team is built from the inside out, and the Saints have to get that offensive and defensive line square. Hopefully he can be that player.
Anybody who didn't like that pick, they just wanted sexy, David. And offensive lineman isn't sexy. I mean, but like I said, I've said before many times, what's fun? It may not be fun, but what's fun? Protecting your quarterback. Having your quarterback now on his keister.
How did the Eagles build that team?
Exactly.
How did the Eagles build that team? They went to the free agent market to get their skill players, and trades to do that. But they built that team by drafting great linemen on both sides of the ball and drafting their defense in particular. So I think that's where the draft has to be. Is I think you get your fundamental players in the draft, and then you go skill players are a lot easier to find, in my opinion, than finding great linemen, because I think there's a dearth and a lack of really skilled offensive linemen in particular coming out of college football.
Well, I appreciate you taking so much time with me this morning. Tell everybody how they can find you, David Grubb, and and all the things that you're up to these days.
Yeah, check thebirdrights.com. Of course, you can find me on social media at DM Grub. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X. I'm on TikTok. You can find me on all those places, Blue Sky as well. And then check out the post up Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on Brew Crew Media.
I need to check you out on the new podcast. I saw that you started doing that with Boot Crew, and I want to check them out. How's that going so far?
It's going well. I mean, it's a formative, it's analysis. Like the guys are a little wilder than me, but I also appear with them on Sundays and talk to and do some appearances on the live streams. The fan interaction has been great.
That's what it's about.
And folks have just really, really have tuned in and supported me. And I'll tell you, Jim, sometimes in this thing, when you do what we do, you hear a lot of the negative things when you mess up. You know what I mean? Or people have hard opinions about what you say, and and tell you where to go and where to put it. But fans have really, really responded, and I didn't know, quite frankly, I didn't know how many people respected and enjoyed what I did. And I'm starting to see that now. So I'm really thankful for the fans in New Orleans who have followed me all the years that I've been doing this and who continue to support me today.
Well, I'm in that group, David. We don't talk a ton, but I love to have you on every now and then. Not just Pelicans, just to have you on because your knowledge of local sports here is fantastic, and I really appreciate what you do. And look, us in this new media world that we live in is proof that you can teach old dogs new tricks, and that we can adapt to the new journalistic world that we live in.
Absolutely, it ain't easy.
No,
you know what I mean? Like it's constant learning. And I think that's what makes it exciting. It keeps us engaged as we get older. And you and I are definitely picking up our grades and losing up top, but the furnace still burns down low.
There's no doubt about it. David Grubb, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to talk to you soon. Have a great beginning of summer and stay in the air condition, my friend.
I shall, my friend. Talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you later. David Grubb, everybody. Check him out. A lot of good things going on his way. And I'm telling you, there's no one more on top of what's going on with the Pelicans than David Grubb, for sure. A couple things, a couple comments while I was out there. I just want to say, I was talking about UBN earlier. He's saying, he didn't say primetime games. He said the 2 he must attend will not be in prime. That's not what you said. And I just want to, let's see, where can I show this real quick? This is what you said in the text. You said, you stole my line. You said 0.0. I'm just saying that's what you sent me. So I'm, not making this up. You did not, whatever. Mally Mal says he can't understand why Banks at guard would be selected number 9 because you need a guard. I mean, I still think he's going to end up being a left tackle. However, that being said, I think there's an excellent chance that he does play left guard. If they think that Penning can play right tackle, or not only that, I mean, I guess you got Radins now too, so they probably wouldn't have brought him in. He's probably has a good chance to play left guard. So I think there's a good chance that Kelvin Banks does play one of the tackle spots. However, if Penning turns out, if Kellen Moore thinks that Penning is worth starting, I hope he's right if that's the case. But if that's the case, you're going to see Banks at left guard. That's what's going to happen, unless he moves Penning to guard. I really don't think they're going to move Penning to guard. The one thing that I see is them not re-signing Penning. He may end up being a backup. They may start Radins at left guard. They may move Fuaga to right tackle. They may play Banks at left tackle. But jury's out. That's why we're doing this all summer. That's why we're doing this. Apathy. If Devin Neal stays healthy, he's going to be 1,000-yard rusher with 8 TDs. Man, that is pie in the sky hopes there, my friend. He's going to get a good chance to run the ball a lot, I bet. But you got to remember, he's still a 6th-round pick. Okay? I love the Devin Neal pick. That being said, I'm never going to predict the 6th rounder is going to do. I mean, look, Marcus Colston is a unicorn. Okay? Gabe saying 0.0. You can't say 0.0. Come on, man. Marcus Colston is a unicorn. He was picked in the 7th round, and he went on to be probably not a Hall of Famer, but I mean, you got to say he's one of the top 5 receivers in Saints history, probably. And that's a 7th rounder. You can't 0.0 that. It's absurd. Come on, man. I got to get a 0.0 meme, and we'll just run it. Okay, we got to get a good 0.0 somewhere. Maybe it'll be Gabe doing the roll 'em thing. That's 0.0, right? Who dat daddy? Absolutely. Love having David on. We get him on about 3 times a year, I guess. He's got a lot going on. But look, he's the guy, either him or Rod. When we want to talk Pelicans, that's who I have on right now. Christian's moved on. Christian Clark covering the Mavs now. So I should have Christian Clark on. Talk about the Mavericks for a minute. I don't even know what that means, PBM. Be sure that I don't know what that means. Sean, do I think the defense on paper is better than last season? Here's why it's just so hard to judge. No, I don't, honestly. I don't think it's worse. I don't think it's better. I don't know how this new defense, if are they even going to institute the 3-4 now? How's Staley going to work? Let me see some. Ask me that question again in August. It's a little bit too early. Hakeem says he should start at left tackle. I agree, but I don't know that they're going to do that or not. They signed Radins to play guard, plus Penning can move inside. He has no value at left tackle. He wasn't terrible last year, but it's obvious he won't be a Saint in 2026. They left the door open for Penning to possibly be a Saint in 2026. They just didn't extend his rookie deal. If they were sure he was going to come back, then they would have extended his rookie deal. Right? That's what they did with Olave. So they could have extended his deal, but they didn't. That doesn't mean he won't be back. I think they're going to experiment with Penning. And I don't look, y'all know how critical I've been of Trevor Penning. The same time last year, I was saying, this dude sucks. He's terrible. He's not going to be anything. However, he showed me more last year than I thought he would. Is he a starting right tackle? I don't think so. However, I think they're going to try to find a way to start him if they can. They didn't sign Radins for nothing, but at the same time, look, you can't have enough depth on the offensive line, especially if you're going to start a rookie quarterback, whether it's Shuck or whether it's Rattler, it doesn't make a difference. You got to have somebody that can block. You got to have depth because you're going to have injuries on that offensive line. Now, Apathy, you asked me about the defense, or was it Apathy that asked me that if I thought the defense? No, Sean, I'm sorry. Sean, you asked me about the defense getting better, whether it's better. I 100% the offensive line is better, and not just because of Kelvin Banks. I think the Radin signing is flying under the radar, again, giving them depth to where if you lose one or even two, you're not just dead to the water. Now, you can't lose Eric McCoy. Eric McCoy is the linchpin on that offensive line. You lose Eric McCoy and you're screwed. You can't lose your center. But that being said, you can afford to lose one of the other ones and still look. I mean, they're not going to win this year anyway. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Montreal, who dat, baby? Tony Godot says Deckers could surprise. I'm not going to be mean. That one I am going to say. I mean, what did they sign him for? I'm not going to say 0.0. He's not on the team in some form or fashion on September the 7th. But the chances of Deckers starting, that is a 0.0. I mean, that dude's not playing. Again, this team needs to go. If they are that cocky and arrogant to think that they can go into this season with this quarterback room and it not be a total, absolute disaster, then their egos are the size of this office, which is really pretty big, honestly. Okay? They cannot go into the season without getting some sort of veteran presence in that quarterback room. And I'm not talking about Kellen Moore or Doug Nussmeier. They have got to have a quarterback wearing a jersey on game day with a baseball cap on on the sideline who can go sit down with Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler, whoever wins the job, and can talk. They can't. That's why I don't get the Decker signing. How many quarterbacks are you going to have on this roster? Doesn't matter. Derek Branch, great question. What record do I think the Saints need to have so they don't draft a quarterback in 2026? And that might be the toughest question to answer because I'm going to go back to the same thing I just said. People don't like it. The people who run this organization have egos so big that they always think that they're one step ahead or whatever. Okay. With the whole, they think that they have their quarterback of the future right now in Tyler Shuck. I promise you they do. So you're asking me a question. What happens if they go 4-13? I'm not saying they will. Their over under right now is most places it's 5.5. Okay. So that means the odds makers think they're going to win about 5 games, maybe 6 if they have a good season. They go 5-12 again. Normal people running teams, unless Tyler Shuck just has this great year or whatever, is going to think that you need a quarterback. I don't think the Saints would think that way. I don't think they drafted Tyler Shuck in the second round because they think they're going to be picking a quarterback again. So I guess my answer to that is I think they'd probably have to go like worst 4-13 or worse to even think about it. What is Tyler Shuck's ledger going to look like? Is he going to come in? Is he going to throw? I mean, what if he throws 14 touchdowns and 15 interceptions and he throws for 2,800 yards? Is that good enough to think you don't need a quarterback? I don't know. It's a tough one. Montreal, we got an easy schedule. Let me tell you something, Montreal. You see all these teams on this schedule here? You see all these teams? Every single one of those teams wants to know when they play the Saints because they think they got an easy victory that week. Now, you see it differently because you're a Saints fan, and I get that. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But I can tell you right now, there ain't no such thing as an easy schedule for this team. I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm telling you the way that I see it. Sean says Deckers is battling Hainer for QB3. If Deckers is battling Hainer for QB3, there's a major problem again because that means they didn't bring a veteran in here. That's a major. If that happens, that's a major problem. That means they go into the season with 0 wins in the quarterback room. 0. Again, if you didn't hear me say it Monday, thanks to Gabe. Gabe went and I think Zach found out the info. Gabe was the one that realized there was no wins in the quarterback room. Gabe's going to come on in a minute, by the way. But you got to go back. In case you didn't hear this before, I'm going to say it again. The last NFL team who went into a regular season with a quarterback room that had 0 NFL wins under its belt. 2001, a quarter of a century ago, nearly a quarter century ago, the Carolina Panthers. And guess what? You know how many wins the quarterback room had when the season was over? 1. Not going to say it's going to be that bad, but they've got to have a veteran. They don't just need to go get somebody so the quarterback room will have a win in it. They need a veteran in there to help this rookie. It's going to be Shuck. I mean, I'm trying to pretend like Rattler has a chance. He doesn't. I mean, realistically, he doesn't. Earl's picks. What matters more than the record is how much growth they have from beginning to end. If you see growth and they go 4-13, is that going to make you happy? Ain't going to make me happy. I'm just saying. See, now, Brian, they would have to me, the only way that Deckers, and that they say it spells it a little, just not that it really matters, but I think it's Dekkers. But they would have to, I mean, if Rattler is in consideration to be cut, which is possible, and then you're really starting with your own group. You could have Shuck, a veteran, and Deckers. I don't know. Apathy says they're going to be a little better than people think. They'll probably sign Asante Samuel right before the draft. Why? Why would you sign Asante Samuel? That's what you're going to use your money on? Okay, whatever. Maybe. Not saying you're wrong about it. Well, I mean, and what is a little better than people think? And better than who? Because the car haters, I guarantee you, all of a sudden the car haters who thought that this team was going to be terrible now think this team is going to be, they'll probably be okay because Carr's gone. You're an idiot if you think that. Sorry. No other way to say it. If you think this team is going to be better now that Carr's gone than they would have been had he stayed, you're ridiculous. I look, again, I hope I'm wrong because I made this stupid bet Friday night. I told you about it. I bet the over 6.5. I thought I was getting value Friday night before I found out the news. I think the ceiling for this team right now is 6 wins. I hope I'm wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong. Would love to be wrong. Oscar Calix says, definitely need a veteran quarterback. How about Ryan Tannehill? I think he's the perfect veteran to bring in. We talked about it Monday. That's who I think they need to bring in. I 100% believe that Tannehill would be the perfect quarterback in this team. Why? Because he wouldn't cost a whole lot of money. He's 37 years old. He doesn't expect to be a starter. He'd probably be willing to take the role of veteran / coach and run with it. And if he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I think he'd be, other than Teddy Bridgewater, who I just don't think is going to want to come here. Teddy Bridgewater would be my number one choice. I don't think he's going to come and take it. My second choice would be Tannehill. Rocky wants to know if they trade the Rat. You're not going to trade the Rat. He's not tradable. No one wants to trade for Spencer Rattler. You get nothing. And when I say you get nothing, you couldn't even trade him because he's not worth anything. I don't even think you could get a 7th round pick for Spencer Rattler. I just don't. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm telling you realistically. So no, they don't trade the Rat. Who would trade for him? What team would trade for Spencer Rattler? And why? I mean, nobody's going to trade for him to be a starter. No team realistically would trade for him to be why would you trade for Spencer Rattler? That doesn't make any sense. Just doesn't. As we go further here, again, about to bring in Gabe, but if you have not subscribed to our Dattitude YouTube page, please, if you're watching on Facebook, just jump over to YouTube and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, just click the little thing for me. Do me a solid. That's all I'm asking. And give us a like because they say it helps the algorithm. Me and old Algie algorithm. Earl's Picks says, I'm talking about them drafting a quarterback of records 4-13, but he killed it and kept improving. They won't draft the quarterback next. I don't think they're going to draft the quarterback next year. I mean, if they have the number 1 pick, I don't think they're going to be that bad, although the odds makers think there's a decent chance. Maybe, because that means that Chuck played really bad. UBN, what are they using the Derek Carr money on? No idea. They got about $25 million, I think, in cap space, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit more. Hakeem says, love my Saints, but I'm prepping 4-13 in 2025. And also says, Pickett or Winston, the 7th round pick. I don't think you're going to get either one of them for a 7th round pick. I don't think they would do that anyway. Shuck plays 90% of the games this year because Coach Moore handpicked him. I still pull for Rattler, though. He gets a chance. I'm going to say this. I think that you will see Rattler at some point. They will put him in, I think, at different times, find ways to get him in the game for different reasons. I also think that, and again, I hope I'm wrong on this because it means that Shuck sucks. I think you will see Rattler because Shuck isn't good enough. And so you'll see at times them change things up. So I don't know. Let's bring Gabe in and talk a little bit. I know he's got some thoughts. By the way, whatever we talk about here coming up, I'm going to leave this slide up. But I'm going to end the show with Saints, final Saints comments and the last word. That's how the show is going to wrap up. So Gabe's going to come on here for about 10 minutes or so, but after we're done, and I didn't realize how long we've been on the air already, but I am going to wrap it up with final Saints comments and last word. Gabe, I don't know if you're starting off with NFL. I'll just let this slide up and you can talk about whatever you want today. How are you today, sir?
I will start with NFL. I'll address Hakeem's comment. The Browns are not trading Kenny Pickett for a 7th round pick. They traded Dorian Thompson-Robinson in a 5th to get him. So turning around 2 months later and trading him for a 7th makes you look like the dumbest front office in football.
Well, they did sign Deshaun Watson.
Well, the Saints were going to do that too.
So. Good thing they got beat to the punch. I see your Texans here. They got their first 3 games already, and they're starting off at the Rams. Then they host the Bucs on Monday Night Football.
Yep. And
then at Jacksonville. All right.
My biggest takeaway from that is the Texans are playing a 3:25 Central game in Week 1, which, Jim, that's music to my ears because that means that I can sit my ass on the couch and watch Red Zone uninterrupted.
Yeah, you know what?
PM slate.
I also have to say that I'm a little pissed because I'm selfish. I get it, but the Saints. First off, I don't like starting at home against anybody when you got 8 home games and 9 road games because it means that you only have 7 home games left after the first game and you got 9 road games left. I mean so I just think that all the NFC teams, in my opinion, if they're going to do this stupid schedule like this, they should just start all the NFC teams on the road at an AFC team in Week 1 and let them all get that week so it's all even after that. That's just my opinion. I think that's how it should work. It'd be more fair.
I don't think you're ever going to have an even.
No, they're not going to do it. I'm not saying they would. I'm not saying they would do it. I'm just saying I wish they would do it.
Well,
Here's
the thing: if you start nitpicking a schedule like that, then what is there to say about teams who have different bye weeks?
No, that's a whole different story.
Exactly. You're never gonna. It's always going to be.
I just think that first of all, they're going to go to 18 games probably within the next 3 years, maybe 4 tops. So we won't have this problem anymore. But I just think it's to me, it's just. And I'm not saying the NFL's trying to be unfair. I just wish they would think about it a little more. I just think that if you just started it that way and, in an odd year, all the NFC teams start on the road, and in an even year, all the NFC teams start at home. I mean, they do in baseball with interleague games. They find ways to do those things. I just think that would just be an easy semi.
Baseball doesn't care about TV ratings.
Well, I mean, you could easily do TV ratings playing interleague games. I mean, interconference games.
Yeah, but you're not going to have Eagles Cowboys start off the season.
Well, you could have.
If I've learned one thing from looking at the NFL schedule so far, they are breaking ratings records this year. That's what they're going for.
Well, you could have Eagles Bills in Week 1, and that would have been just as good as anything else.
No, absolutely. Eagles Cowboys will shatter that.
I don't agree with that at all.
The Dallas Cowboys aren't.
First of all, it's the opening game. It doesn't matter. It's the Week 1 of it's the first game of the year. You could put, I don't know, you could put Bears and Giants on, and it would get huge ratings because it's the first game of the year and people want to watch.
It'd get huge ratings, but they're not going for huge ratings. They already get that. They're going for record shattering, and I think they'll get that.
All right. Okay.
I mean, just look at the Thanksgiving schedule. The Chiefs are in Dallas. You can't imagine a bigger game.
How many years have we seen? I mean, the Lions are good now, but we saw Lions Bears on Thanksgiving for 30 years when nobody gave a rat's ass. I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, wait, I forgot to turn the Lions game on. It's noon. It started a half an hour ago. Anyway, let's move on to something I know you and I agree on. Again, I'm going to end this show with Saints. So you got Gabe and I are probably going to talk about 5 minutes about this, and then I'm going to spend the next 5 to 7 minutes after that talking Saints. So you got about 10 minutes to get your final Saints comments here this morning, this Wednesday. A reminder, our Friday show will be tomorrow. We're going to have a show tomorrow on Thursday with Rod Walker, talking about the Saints release and going through the schedule, the fine-tooth comb. Rod Walker will have his prediction, his early record prediction, and I'll give you my thoughts on where I think the easiest parts, not that there's any easy parts, but whether I think the Saints got it as good as they could get it, as bad as they could get it, or somewhere in between. All right, let's talk about the NBA. And I should have changed the title because I know we're not going to talk Pelicans, but we are going to talk about the NBA draft lottery. And I think you and I don't know. We haven't really talked about it, but I think we both feel the same way about the potential, how the lottery turned out. Let's just say it that way.
So, Jim, you've got kids.
Yeah.
You
want one of them?
Fall within the range. No, I'm good. I've got a puppy.
Okay, there you go.
Might fall within your range. It might not. But there was a cartoon about probably 15 years ago, I'd say, called Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, I know it.
And there's a famous quote from that show.
Hold on, real quick.
Says,
Breaking news. Week 8. The Saints are headed to play the Los Angeles Rams. Exciting stuff. There you go. So now we got 3 games on the docket. So go ahead. Phineas and Ferb. I remember.
So there was a famous quote from the show, and it's gone viral a lot of time. So it basically says, if I had a nickel for every time something happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. The same thing applies to the draft lottery, but it's happened multiple times over 4 decades now.
Yeah, it's definitely more than twice.
It's absolutely more than twice. And I saw someone put it this way the other day. They said, at every turn, the NBA has a chance to prove that this system is not rigged. They somehow make it look more rigged.
They do.
I'm not, you know me, I'm not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist type of person. I don't believe sports are rigged. But if one thing is rigged, it's the NBA draft lottery. Because this, like you said, it hasn't just happened once. And someone mentioned it in the comments earlier. It happens with teams who trade their players for peanuts to the biggest market in the league in Los Angeles. It's happened now 3 times over the last 2 decades with Chris Paul, with Anthony Davis, and now with Luka Doncic. They've all moved to Los Angeles, and the team that traded them has been rewarded with the number 1 pick.
Yep. I agree with you.
I just think it's undeniable.
Girls Picks thinks it's completely right. I just don't know how you look at this, and they had what, a 1.8.
So 1.8%.
To put that in perspective,
if you're looking at the top 4 picks.
Yeah, but to put this in perspective, to show you what the chances are, the chances of the Mavericks getting the number 1 pick in the draft were 5 times worse than the Saints' odds to win the NFC South this year. What is that? 5 times worse than the chances the NFC South have to win the division.
Not forget how the Mavericks got a lottery pick.
Yeah,
do you know
right.
This? You know how they got a lottery pick?
It was through some kind of was it?
They flipped a coin.
Oh, that's right.
Between them and the Chicago Bulls, they flipped a coin to see which playing team that got eliminated would get this last lottery pick. And the Dallas Mavericks, not only did they win a 50-50 coin toss, they then got the number 1 pick with a 1.8% chance.
Yeah.
And not only that, if you look at the 4 teams who were rewarded with top picks, as you mentioned, none of them were the teams who performed poorly during the year, per se. They are 4 big markets. And those teams had something, I don't remember the official number. I saw it the other day, didn't write it down. It was like a 0.00145% chance of that happening in that order. I mean, the San Antonio Spurs have gotten lucky time after time when it comes to lottery, all the way back to Tim Duncan with Wembanyama. Now they get a really prime pick in this draft.
Yeah.
But it's the continual fishy nature of the draft lottery. And I think I applaud sports leagues for trying something new. The in-season tournament in the NBA, the play-in tournament, they're new. They're fun ideas. They might work, they might not. I don't think they have. Some people might feel differently. But at least the NBA has tried them. They know that they are having issues. And they've tried something new. But this draft lottery has been going on forever, and they changed it back in 2019. Jim, do you know how many times since 2019 that the team with the best odds to win the lottery has actually won the lottery?
It's not often.
It hasn't happened.
Oh, never. I didn't know it was never. I didn't know it was never.
It's not happened since they changed it in 2019. That's 6 years of evidence. And the NBA has gone on to say that the purpose of the draft lottery is to take teams away from tanking. They think tanking is bad for the league. Well, here's the thing. Teams are going to inevitably tank anyway. It gives them better odds of getting the pick. And so what you're doing with this draft lottery by not giving them these prime picks is you are ensuring that these small market bad teams like Utah, like Washington, remain really poor. You've already got a parity issue between the East and the West. It's been here for 2 decades. The West has long been better. They have more stars. They're more stacked top to bottom. And by denying these teams like Washington, like Chicago, these picks, they're not going to get any better.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
They've continually showed it. And so this process is, whether you want to say it's rigged or not, it's not working, and it's not good for the game.
No, I hear you. Breaking news again. The Saints, another schedule leak. They are headed to, this is actually a good one. They're headed to Miami in week 13, which is the week after Thanksgiving. So a warm weather game on November the 30th. That is a good thing that they will be playing in Miami on, again, November the 30th. All right. Hold on. I didn't mean to show that one. I'm going to show this one.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, just to finish up the NBA draft lottery stuff, Ernst & Young is the firm that handles this.
Yeah.
And I sent that quote. I'm not going to read the quote. That was just one of the charges. Looking at violationtracker.goodjobsfirst.org. So it's an official organization. They have been charged with 11 counts of accounting fraud or deficiencies, 2 tax violations, 3 investor protection violations, 1 banking violation, and 2 False Claims Act and related.
Is that good?
So if you want to know whether or not an outside firm could hypothetically, allegedly rig a draft, it's absolutely possible.
Exactly. I'm with David.
Even with all of that stuff being live, with balls being drawn, there are ways you can use temperatures to ensure that a certain ball gets picked and it's not.
I'm just going to say I'm with David. I don't want to get sued for libel or anything.
That's why you say allegedly and cite other sources.
I'm just saying, if they wanted to write a script, that's how they would write a script. You can figure out on your own whatever you think happened. Whether that happened or not, who knows? All right, Gabe Henderson, we will talk to you. Are you going to be here tomorrow?
Probably.
Okay. Well, tomorrow we will talk again. Official schedule release. We'll have all the games, and we'll again talk about it with Rod Walker, and Gabe will be with us tomorrow with some more thoughts, and hopefully none of them will have to do with the word rig or allegedly involved in there. We'll see. We don't know that for sure yet.
I mean, we don't.
See you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Before we get to our final thoughts on the Saints and give you my last word, because there's another breaking news on the Saints. If you hold on for 1 second. We told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Well, thank goodness you asked. After their complimentary valuation of your company If you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. That's right, around the world. And they'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication and success. They're fully licensed, ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It ain't the NFL schedule release. It ain't when the Saints play the Bears or the Patriots or the Niners or any of those teams. What's really important? The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, if you're watching Jason Sykes, I did not mean to ban you from YouTube. I meant to delete one of your comments and I hit the wrong button. Sorry. You went a little over the top. Again, I didn't. If you're still watching, because you're allowed, even if I ban you, you can still watch. So if you're watching, I did not mean to ban you from the comments. I meant to delete one of your comments and hit the wrong button. So I will try to figure out how to unban you when I get off the show. Sorry, but we don't. One of the things you said, you were a little over the top. Okay, and it is what it is. So anyway, I apologize. Hope it didn't hurt your feelings. Wasn't trying to. That's where we are. All right, final thoughts again here on the Saints. Again, let's see if we got any new schedule release things before we go off the air. I know we got a preseason note. Apparently, reading this through Fox 8 through Nick Underhill. So there you go. I mean, this is like through this one and through that one. But again, on Fox 8, Nick Underhill is reporting that the Saints will play their final preseason game of the year at home against the Denver Broncos. So the Saints will play. Yeah, it's a family show. Exactly, Earl. I mean, it was borderline. It wasn't that bad. He was being nasty and I just didn't like his tone. So anyway, Saints, according to Nick Underhill, will finish the preseason at home against the Broncos. And the site, man, it must be getting a lot of clicks because it's starting to freeze up. Again, so far, we have Saints at home in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals, at home in week 5 against the Giants, on the road against the Rams in week number 8, and at Miami. So 2 home games, 2 road games at Miami in week 13, which is November the 30th. So far, none of these games are listed as prime time. I'm trying to see, what does this gray mean? Oh, except, the Rams game, obviously on the road at LA, it is a 3:00 start, 3:25 start. And don't laugh. I mean, I really do think the Saints will get a primetime game. And it's no guarantee that they will, but I really do think they will. All right. Seeing that we're not getting any new comments, probably going to move on and go to the last word here. Again, tomorrow we will be back on the air live at 11 a.m. Central Time as we have the entire schedule. And again, we will go through it with Rod Walker. Again, who is maybe it's going to become a tradition. Rod has been he's been the guy that we've turned to. The day after a schedule release, it'll be now 3 out of 4 years that we'll have Rod on the day after the schedule is released. And it may be 4 out of 4. I don't know who was on 2023. I didn't go look. Earl's Picks says, did they say when the Saints go to Chicago, I can't wait because I'm going to rep the black and gold, hope it's not freezing? They have not said yet. They have not said whether the Saints will be in Chicago. What do we have so far for Chicago? Just looking at their schedule, they have 5 of their games have been announced. They open against Minnesota on Monday Night Football. In fact, the Bears have 2 Monday night games. Why do they have 2 Monday night games? They have 2 Monday night games. They have a Black Friday game, and they have a Saturday game. I don't get that at all. Anyway, So the Bears are at home in week 1 against Minnesota, at Washington in week 6. They're home for the Giants in week 10, at Philly in week 13 on Black Friday. They host Green Bay. That should be interesting in week 16. And they finish the year at home against Detroit. Rest of the division, other games of note. The Falcons will host Tampa Bay in week 1. They will host Miami in week 8. They'll be at they'll be playing Indianapolis in Berlin in the middle of the year. That's just kind of crazy that they got week 10. They're going to be playing week 10 in Berlin. That's crazy. And then they'll be playing a Monday Night Football week 17 against the Rams at home. Speaking of the Rams, their entire schedule has been released. So is Miami, for that matter. Miami and the Dolphins both have had their entire schedule released. The entire week 1 schedule is out. So if you want to go find it, go search for NFL Nerd on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. If you're like me and you got it. This dude is spot on. Okay. I'm telling you, last year, I haven't seen him ever made a mistake. So if he reports it, it's pretty much in there. He's getting these reports from beat writers. And the beat writers are really these are people that cover the team, and those people are getting it from inside the organization somewhere. Hence why you got 2 teams who have already not supposed to, but they've leaked their schedules to different people. And when you leak your schedule, obviously whoever you're playing, whatever other week. So the Saints aren't leaking anything, but they're finding out through other teams leaking stuff. Who's playing who? The Giants, their full schedule is released. That's how we know the Saints are playing the Giants in the Dome on, what is that? October the 5th. I said week 6, I think earlier. I meant to say week 5. It's actually week 5. They're playing the Giants at home, not week 6. So anyway, we'll have the whole schedule tomorrow here on the network. UBN wants to know, when is official? It's tonight. They're going to release it on the NFL channel. But I'm telling you, if you go find NFL Nerd on X and you click on, he's got a little, he's got it pinned to the top. It's something called Pro Grid. And it's fantastic. It's a grid of the schedule, and he's filling them in as he goes, and you can hit refresh. He's now got 104 games posted. 38.2%. It tells you how many games are left. He's got 168 left to post. So 38.2% of the schedule has been leaked, and it's on Pro Grid. Again, NFL Nerd on X. All right. On that thing, yes, that is what I texted you. All right, time to move on to the last word for today. I think you pretty much all could guessed what I was going to do when you saw the news. The title of it is, Now You Reinstate Pete Rose? That is the last word for today. I am wondering today if people inside the offices of Major League Baseball are feeling good about themselves this morning. I wonder if they're holding out their collective chests and saying, yeah, we did a really good thing by allowing Pete Rose back into the game. Or are they sitting there with their smug little faces, realizing how big of a collective group of assholes they really are? Somewhere in baseball hell, Dave Vincent is either laughing he got exactly what he wanted, or maybe he's actually pissed that Rose got in even after his death. But really, Major League Baseball, really? You wait until Pete Rose is dead to give him the only thing that really ever mattered to him? He was 83 years old when he died. You couldn't have thrown the dude a bone when, I don't know, he turned 80? All they really did now is remind us how big a bunch of contemptuous D-bags they really are. It had been 36 years since Rose was banned from the game, and its punishment lasted about 26 years too long. But baseball did as baseball does. They took the easy way out and the smug way out. They do things their way. They let the all-time hits leader back in less than a year after he's dead. And now they leave it up to an even bigger group of holier-than-thou jerkwads. The good old boy Writers Association will now decide if Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. Because They can figure out whether he suffered enough. I'm sure none of them have ghosts in their closets. But sure, let's let them decide if they, after they put their cigars down long enough to check or not check the box. The same group who have decided the best baseball player of most of our lifetimes, Barry Bonds, doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame because he was doing something Major League Baseball full well knew he was doing, and at the same time helping save the game that was dying a slow death. Yeah, he's not in. Same group are going to decide now on Pete Rose. The game of baseball itself has always been my favorite. It's like if you combined chess, leather, dirt, and wood. Wait, that doesn't sound good. You know what I mean, you bunch of sickos. It's a thinking man's game. Baseball's opening day is when spring begins and snow melts. It ends with the Fall Classic and the calendar telling us it's time to go back into hibernation. It's a beautiful, wonderful game with a checkered past. In other words, it's a lot like life. And I guess in Pete Rose's case, a lot like death. Sometimes you get what you want, but you aren't around to see it. Hopefully, Pete Rose can still enjoy the moment up there with Shoeless Joe because he certainly deserved it. It's just a shame that baseball and the people who run Major League Baseball decided that they would let him in way too late. That is going to wrap it up for this show on a Wednesday. I want to thank today's guest, of course, David Grubb, Gabe Henderson, and you. You were our guest today. You're right, Who Dat Daddy? As much as I hate to say it, I don't know what's going on here with my mouse, but I'm trying to show you a comment. It won't let me. I guess once I said the last word, that's why baseball is a dying sport. Absolutely. We hope you can join us again tomorrow. There it is. Now it's going to show it. Gabe, hide that for me. Hide that comment for me. Again, tomorrow, Thursday, a special edition of Dattitude. We will welcome in Rod Walker. No show on Friday. And then we'll be back with our regularly scheduled Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week on that. Also, I'm going to give you a little heads up. We are going to start. Look, I've been telling y'all that this show we need to broaden our horizons back again. We're going to go back to not just being a Saints show starting next week. We'll obviously going to talk about, probably every show we'll talk about Saints somewhat. We'll probably end each show with Saints and last word. But this show was meant to be about a little bit about everything. And we've kind of lost our way a little bit, which I know a lot of you like. But LSU baseball is doing fantastically. By the way, in case you didn't see it, the team that I talked to, LSU Shreveport coach Brad Neffendorf on Monday, and because of what happened with Derek Carr, I wasn't able to run the interview here on the show, on the live show. So I put it up by itself if you want to go watch it. By the way, LSU Shreveport is now 53-0. They won the two games of their first two games of their regional. Loyola University, shout out to, there you go, UBN. Brandon Mooney is lighting it up. I think he is 6'4", what is he? 6 for 9, I believe. And he got on another time by an error. He's got a home run. He's got 4 or 5 RBIs. Loyola, 1 win away from the NAIA World Series. Loyola of New Orleans. That would be fun. Anybody want to take a trip to Idaho? Just saying. Talk about summer. It ain't summer there. I looked it up. It is Lewiston, Idaho, I believe. They got tomorrow. I don't know what it's going to be like next week or whatever they play the World Series. But the high temperature tomorrow in Lewiston, Idaho is 64 degrees. Just saying. That sounds like a nice place to go. So Loyola and LSU Shreveport, both 1 win away. Can they stay in that? Can they finish it off? They'll get a chance to do so. I think both today get a chance to finish it off and make it to the NAIA World Series. We hope so. We will tell you tomorrow whether they were able to make it. Again, tomorrow it's going to mostly be about the schedule release. How does it affect the Saints? We'll go game by game, talk a little bit about it with Rod Walker, get his prediction, get my prediction, get your prediction. Gabe will have his thoughts as well. We'll be dack. A reminder to subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications of when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow morning. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.